Hi, I'm Ivonne, and this is
Daniel Koulack.
How old were you when you started playing music?
I first began on the violin when I was 7, but I wasn't a practicer, and also I didn't have support from the family, and I came from a family of people who enjoyed music but weren't players. So in retrospect, my first teacher was like the sort of the not nice classical variety of teachers.
Okay.
So like in retrospect, like it's strange that I continued to play.
Yeah.
Like the violin lessons were, generally upsetting, and I didn't have the support. Like I had no idea what she was talking about, and I didn't have support from
Right.
From the home. But somehow there was something in my imagination that made me want to continue with music, and eventually I expressed it. I wanted a different teacher, and then luckily when I was 9 we found like the opposite situation, like an incredibly wonderful player.
Cool.
And a wonderful teacher, so then I sort of got a good feeling. And then somewhere in there, and I still wasn't a practicer, but I was progressing. And then when I was 11, just by chance comment from a friend, I ended up deciding to play the banjo, and then I was teaching myself, and I started to practice like a maniac. Before school, I'd run home at lunch and play, and after school, and so that was when I was 11, and I progressed, quite quickly that year because I was putting in the hours.
Of course. And you're also an amazing bass player. When did you start playing the bass?
Well, along the way, like after the banjo, I ended up picking up the guitar.
Okay.
And fooling around and sort of, getting a little better at it. And then, and I was really into the blues. I could play pretty good country blues guitar.
Oh, really?
And finger picking styles, because I played also finger style, like bluegrass style banjo. So I had the coordination to play pretty nice finger style guitar, and I got into the older blues. And then in high school, with a couple of friends, we started a blues band, and so I decided to play electric bass, and it was super fun, and I just did it for fun. And then when I was 19, I ended up playing guitar and mandolin in an excellent klezmer band called Finjan, which some older Canadians would know, because we had a really good run of many years.
Were you based out of Winnipeg?
Based out of Winnipeg.
Okay.
And the bass player in that band was this spectacular musician, just like thrilling. Like if he's playing 1/5, boom, doom, boom. It's like, it's even if he was playing the simplest thing, it felt so good, and I loved him and his musicianship. So then that really sparked my imagination to play the bass. And he was very generous. He showed me a few things, and when we would be on the gigs, he would let me play his beautiful bass.
Wow.
And so then I got a bass, and started working on it, and then I became a father, and I guess at that point I decided that my chances of making a living without being on the road constantly were better as a bass player.
Really?
In Winnipeg. Because with the banjo, if you're going to make a living, you'd have to be running all over the place.
Okay.
Whereas in Winnipeg, there were still, gigs here and there, and so then I started, I could play a bit, but then I started to really buckle down and try to get my act together.
Right. Wow. I didn't even know a lot of that. That's awesome. Cool. And who was your biggest musical influence growing up?
Well, I'll say when, there's many influences, but I sort of go back to why, you try to figure out why you ended up doing things. And when I was very little, my parents were from New York and were part of the folk, revival. And my father strummed the guitar and sang some songs. And I remember, like, as a very little kid, and it would be like even before 4 years old, and 4 years old, 5 years old, that when he brought out the guitar, it was a very happy time in the house. You know, it wasn't always happy in the house, but when the guitar came out, it was like there was a good feeling. So that might have been at the root. When I was 4 years old, for my 4th birthday, I was given one of those little turntables, you know,
really?
with speakers built in, and a Pete Seeger record.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, he was a wonderful banjo player and wonderful musician. And also, just because of, you know, the whatever constructs in my life, I identified with the oppressed, you know, just because of the, you know, and I remember one of the records that my parents had, or my mother had, was this recording of Pete Seeger in the middle of the civil rights movement in Carnegie Hall, and singing all these songs, and you hear the people singing with them, and it was, you know, as a little kid, it was, you know, just moving. I remember, you know, if I couldn't sleep, I'd go down to the living room and you know, I'd bring a blanket and I'd put that record on.
Yeah.
So that had like I think there was something in there.
Cool, yeah. Cool.
And then I think learning music, it's a lot about the imagination, and then then, you know, I had like fantasies about what it would be, what it's like in the South, you know, in the country, you know, like kids think about being woodsmen here or there, or in different places. So I had, you know, sort of this fantasy world about, you know, about the southern states, and so that sort of, when I started playing the banjo, that kind of fed into that, and then I just got into the repertoire. So you know, I know nothing about pop music, literally, like whatsoever, no clue. But you know, since I was 11, you know, in my teen years, first like 11 and on for a few years, I could tell you all about these old banjo players who had made archival recordings for Folkways.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And then also sort of an offshoot of the Pete Seeger, and that I got into, like I said, the country blues. And then, you know, that led me to other musics, and the instruments, and work leads you to different styles.
Totally.
So I have many influences, but somewhere at the root, it's, you know, somewhere at the very root is probably the Pete Seeger.
Pete Seeger, yeah.
And my first record.
Awesome. Who would your favorite banjo player be then?
I can't say banjo player because I have several favorites, but
Okay.
I do have favorites.
Yeah.
I love, and they're people that clawhammer banjo players would know, and they have very different styles, but I like elements of all of their styles. One is Adam Hurt, who's
great.
just an exquisite, beautiful banjo player, and his choice of notes and his whole approach to the instrument is just really exquisite.
Yes.
And so he's one. Adam Hurt is one. Another who's sort of on the other end. It's like nitty gritty and just drive, pure, and is Dan Gellert, and he just plays hard and sort of sings rough, but it's also in its own way, like really interesting. And then there's Reed Martin, who just he's constantly improvising, and has a real drive, and he's somewhere he's his own thing, but maybe somewhere in between Dan Gellert and Adam Hurt, and then a person who I had the good fortune to bump into when I was a little kid, who helped me get started with the banjo and sort of taught me how to learn by myself, was Kathy Fink.
She's great. Yes.
Yeah, she's just, you hear her on record and she's great. Man, when you're sitting in the room, she is such a strong musician.
Yeah.
Whatever instrument she's playing, or if she's singing, it's like everything's on the money.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Where's the most interesting place that you've traveled to with your music?
Sort of an unusual one was playing at a private party in Monaco. We spent more time in traveling than we were there.
Yeah, I bet.
And it was so that was sort of
that's cool,
unusual, but been lots of nice places. Sometimes you're, I'd just as soon be in a small town in Saskatchewan, with the warm feeling, as playing in a fancy theater somewhere. It just has to do with the feeling and the people you're playing music with.
I totally agree. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes my favorite concerts have been house concerts in tiny little towns. So yeah.
Yeah, if the feeling is right. Yeah.
Exactly. And one last random little question: what's your favorite dessert?
Okay. Well,
this is the one everyone always has to think the hardest on.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm known for making a very incredibly delicious lemon meringue pie.
Oh, that's my favorite.
It's not like other lemon meringue pies, but
yes.
And I do enjoy my own lemon meringue pie. I know maybe that's not right to be blowing your own horn like that.
Oh, you can do that. That's fine. My absolute favorite is lemon meringue pie made by my mom.
Okay.
So
well, we'll have a bake-off, me and your mother.
Okay, perfect. Next time I'm over, I'm gonna test out your lemon meringue pie then.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay,
appreciate it.